Hey everyone! So for this project we're going to be working with shutter speeds. Now before we actually get into the directions, I wanted to show you guys some examples because truly shutter speed is one of the most one of those settings that there's so much you could do with it, and I don't think that people realize the power that shutter speeds really have. So I just wanted to show you some examples and some different genres of photography. So just looking at these photos, let's look at this real quick. So this is a bumper cars thing, and the lights on the bumper cars are what are creating all of these really cool designs. So as you know, with photography, we're dealing with light all the time, and so using long shutter speeds can really help you make some phenomenal images. Okay, but that's not the only place it's used. So sports is a big deal. Now usually with sports we tend to go with faster shutter speeds. Let me show you some examples. So catching someone in midair like this. Now this is also a great photo because of the point of view, the angle that they got. Capturing this emotion, and with that really fast shutter speed to get enough light in, you usually have a large aperture, which helped create the look of this photo with their teammates running and they're out of focus and all of the focus is on her yelling. This is a classic example of Michael Jordan, it right in the air, the low angle looking up. This is just an iconic photo. Fast shutter speeds. Now, but here we have an example of a slower shutter speed, and this is using a technique called panning, where you're moving with the subject, and once they get right in front of you, you take the photo and you get this part of the subject being in focus while you're also getting the motion blur. Really great photo here. Alright, let's keep moving on. Water is a great place to play with shutter speeds. So here's a nice side-by-side example where we have one where it's frozen in time with a really fast shutter speed, and then another where we're seeing the flow with a slow shutter speed. This one's a fast shutter speed, but then examples like this where we just have this beautiful flowy look to water, that is going to be from a slow shutter speed. This one's kind of in between. We have starting to get that flowy look with it. Another one with that nice flowy look. I'm loving it. This is Iceland, by the way, the land of waterfalls. Can't wait to go there someday. Another place that you can also use shutter speed. Here's an example of a slow shutter speed with a musician. We're able to get the motion happening here with the drumsticks. Now that doesn't mean that you only use that. These other examples, like this is with aperture, where you're really getting the person up front nice and clear, and then the other people in the background. And this is one with a faster shutter speed, where you're showing and capturing the energy of the crowd, freezing the motion. Okay, and here's some fun ones. So fireworks are a great time to use slow shutter speeds. Now when you have the buildup of light with a lot of fireworks, you will get areas that are completely bright like this. But if you play with it, adjust your shutter speed, you can also get stuff like this where maybe there was just one one firework going off at a time, but with that shutter open, you end up capturing multiple fireworks on the same image. So all of these didn't come up at one time, they came up one at a time, but because of that long shutter speed and the dark night, it's able to capture all of them all in one image. This is another slow shutter speed. We could see that the nice little bit of water here and even the ghostly appearance. So fun little fact, when photography first started back in the 1800s, there were people who would create ghost photography. And what they would do is they would have someone, have like an assistant in the studio, take a photo of them but leave the same, well, it was a plate back then, in there, and then have the person that the actual client come in and take the photo. but because it was that long shutter speed in the beginning when they took their photo of their assistant, it looked like there was a ghostly figure standing behind them, kind of like how this looks like kind of like a ghostly figure because these people were moving. So a little interesting trivia there. Light trails is a great time, a great thing to take with long shutter speeds. So you can't, with a fast shutter speed, you can't get the motion of the light, but here you can. Here's another one using a cell phone. So just moving that phone around, and because you have a long shutter speed, if there's anyone that's moving in the image, if they're moving fast enough, you're not actually going to see them in the image. In fact, back here, you can see some people that were walking, and there's like a little ghostly image of them. But with the main photo here, there was actually two people walking with cell phones and making these different light trails, and you don't actually see the person in the photo or the people because they weren't standing still long enough to be captured in the image. Another one with some light trails going on here. Right. Now, sometimes, things that look kind of boring, so this is an alright photo, like, okay, we're at the Hard Rock, no big deal. But you can have fun, especially now these photos are also using, so they're using long shutter speeds, movement, and some of them zooming all at the same time. So here's one where it was a long shutter speed, so I clicked down on my shutter, and as the shutter speed was going, I turned the zoom, and it creates this doubling effect happening. Super fun to do at night with lights. And this wasn't with the tripod, this was just standing there playing around and having fun, trying different shutter speeds, trying different movements, different zooming in, zooming out. Let's see, I think there's a couple, so here's a couple more, and you could see the zoom when I'm zoomed in the most to zoomed out the most, all in one shot because we have a long shutter speed. Okay, here I kind of paused, it looks like, so zoomed in, a little bit of a pause, and then zoomed all the way out. This one is turning, so long shutter speed, take the photo, turn the camera, let's see what happens. And this wasn't just, there's a lot of photos I took this night. These are just the ones that came out the best, I thought at least. Super fun thing to do though, and just to play around and have a good old time. Alright, I think I just have one more collection down here for you guys. Okay, so here's another example with water. Now, the water, there was a lot of movement happening in the water, but with a long enough shutter speed, that movement is going to basically smooth over, and you're going to get this really beautiful look to the water, like it's just really nice and smooth. So here's another one. Nice smooth water, long shutter speed. More of the lights, the light trails happening. This is another one where zoomed in with a long shutter speed in order to get this double stacking effect, these little squiggly lines and all. More with the lights, just adding an extra little element, like my main subject up here, and this is really cool, and I took a photo without the light trails, but I think I kept trying to take photos and there were so many cars going by that I kept getting cars instead. So went with a really long shutter speed, small aperture, and was able to get the light trails going instead of the ugly cars. At least it would, that's my aesthetic. That's what I wanted. And another great thing is just being able to take photos at night. How many times have you wanted to take a photo at night and you're like, oh, I can't? Well, with a long shutter speed you can. Now if you have motion, of course it's going to affect it. So this is in Washington DC, a very touristy place. This is a Korean War memorial. And I went during the middle of the day, but there were so many people there that just really couldn't get a good shot. I knew if I came at night, one, there'd be less people, and then two, I could play with my long shutter speeds and it'd be no big deal. I could still get some quality images. And you can tell it's a long shutter speed because if we look back here at the trees, you can see that they're slightly blurred because there was wind going and moving the trees around. Another night shot. So you don't have to be worried about whether you can take photos at night anymore, now that you're going to know how to use your shutter speeds. Alright guys, so I believe that was it. Yeah, that's all for this. Now I also included a video, should be under this video, of light painting by this awesome light artist, so I definitely recommend you check that out as well. Have fun with this assignment because you're about to unlock so much potential with your camera.